Now let us turn our attention to what we call bones. So bones are dense connective tissues that provide support, protection, and perform some metabolic functions. Without bones, you can't make some cells. You can't, for example, we have the red bone marrow that is very important in making red blood cells. Okay, we also have issues to do with regulation of amounts of, let us say, calcium in the blood. The bones play an important role because in the bones we have calcium, phosphates, and other salts there. So that means that the bones are quite important, apart from providing support and enabling us to move. The bones actually play very important roles. So what are bones made up of? Remember, the constant statement is, first check what are connective tissues supposed to be made up of. Okay, organic matrix, or the matrix, or in some instances we have called it the brown substance. So in there you have fibers that are laid. So what fibers do we have in there? Collagen fibers, and then salts, and then you have cells. Okay, so we need to talk about what type of cells do we find there, what type of fibers do we find there, how are the fibers laid, okay, and then of course what are the salts. And in this case, basically the screen is indicating that we have calcium phosphate in there. And this actually, the collagen fibers, the salts that we are talking about here, the calcium phosphate, provide the bones with the strength and rigidity that they actually do have. Okay, another salt that we can talk about is calcium carbonate in there. Okay, so those are the bones. So calcium is an important ingredient of bones, and that's why if you don't have enough calcium in your body, your bones become very weak. Okay, so in here we are stressing the fact that bones are calcified connective tissues with the cells embedded in a matrix. So that matrix is 30% organic material, and most of it is actually the inorganic salts. And that's why we are talking about calcium phosphate, calcium carbonate. They are the ones that are actually more in there. Okay, so the cells that we have in the bone, we have the osteoblasts, osteocytes, and then the osteoclasts. So each of these types of cells actually play different functions. So the osteoblasts, these ones produce the bone's inorganic components. The salts that we have talked about, the osteoblasts are actually the ones that do that produce these salts. And then the osteocytes, these ones are actually mature osteoblasts. Okay, these are mature osteoblasts, and they are involved in making sure that the bone remains healthy, bone maintenance. And then osteoclasts, they are important in resolving the bone matrix. Okay. Dentine is something that is similar to bones. The only unique thing is that it is harder and it is having 75% inorganic content. Okay, if we are to check here for the bone, it is 70% inorganic salts or inorganic components, and then here we're saying that dentine has 75%. So that makes dentine more strong. Where do we find dentine? In your teeth. The teeth actually have what we call dentine. If you remember the structure of the teeth, where we talk about the enamel, the hardest part of the teeth, and then we move inside, you find the dentine. Okay, so you don't have lacunae, you don't have all the osteons. What you basically have are the odontoblasts, okay, are the inner margins that produce dentine. Okay, it is dentin is part of the teeth, like we have said. It is found between the enamel and the pulp cavity. It contains some nerves, so that means that if there is any sensitivities, if you get into contact with, for example, cold things, you feel that that sensitivity there. Okay, so the bones, what do they do? Like I said earlier on, that they provide support. They also help in a number of functions related to production of red blood cells. Like we've also seen that bones contain calcium salts, so that means that they help in maintaining the level of calcium, okay, in the blood, okay, because those salts can be dissolved and then calcium is released, or that calcium can be obtained back to the bones. Okay, so the bones are able to play these functions because of a number of adaptations. One is that the outer covering of the bone is the periosteum. This is actually tough and therefore provides protection. The collagen fibers contribute to the strength that bones actually do have. And then the osteocytes and the osteoblasts, very important in repairing bone tissue. Okay, remember the osteoclasts are the ones that are involved in resorption. Okay, so that means that for bones are actually responsive to a number of hormones or chemical signals that may require, for example, some of the salts to be released, or some of the components of bones to basically be repaired. So bones are responsive to these chemical signals, and that allows them to actually play the role that they do.